so thank you so much, Firas, Dr. Firas, for the lovely introduction. So our topic today is about, not really about recipes, although for for so many years I've been dealing with recipes, but in this long journey, of course, I had, as you said, I had to consult some manuscripts, and along the way I really found some interesting material that is beyond the recipes, and I thought, it would be lovely to share what, my findings and share them with you. So today we are reading not the recipes themselves, but about them, between the lines, what others said about them, and not only the cookbooks, but also books related to food, and they are connected to the cookbooks. So I chose to start with visuals because, when we say beyond recipes, I don't mean just the written word, but I also mean that, there are a lot of miniatures that need to be related to food, and they really comment the way the recipes do on the daily lives. So I have chosen some images that reflect the lives of people that to whom those cookbooks were written. This is a way of of introducing us to their world. It's unfortunate that none of the cookbooks we have, Arabic cookbooks, are illustrated. But the only one we have comes from India, from the 15th century, and it is commissioned by Sultan Riyad Shah. So, it is also, it is significant that we see how food is presented in this, not only in the recipes, but also in the illustrations. As you see, there is pomp and grandeur in the way. This is kind of high cuisine, elitist cuisine, and we understand, of course, why these are other miniatures. Also, Riyad Shah, here he is, and he is being served his cooks and his, his wives perhaps, and his, here they are making sambusa. So it's really a very interesting book. And it's a pity that none of our scribes, of our artists in the Arab world thought of illustrating a cookbook like this. Perhaps, because cuisine in the Arab Muslim world is not as elitist as it was as it has been in India, during the time of, for example, Sultan Riyad Shah, when they wrote for him Na'mat Nama. We have cookbooks that were written for people, different, social strata, but they were not written specifically for the ruling classes or for the viziers or so, but they were also meant to be read by the by people who can afford to buy those cookbooks and who can afford to try the recipes. The most important of these images we have related to medieval life and related to food is, of course, Maqamat al-Hariri from the 12th century, and it was copied magnificently by Al-Wasiti in the 13th century. In those in those illustrations, of course, he says things that Al-Hariri's text doesn't say. In the text, it would say that the two characters, the Al-Harith and Abu Zayd, they passed through a village, but Al-Wasiti, he presents us with a whole village. Here is a close-up of people, ordinary people, going about their lives. The spinner, the farmer, the woman who seems to have been having problems, and there is a man who is pointing his finger towards his wife. Perhaps he didn't like her food or something. There is a mother and her kid, etc. So it is full of life, and it really gives us a good picture of how life was at the time, life of ordinary people. We read I mean, we read so much in their books about wedding parties, wala'im, but and we read that they arrange the food in a certain way, such as folding their loaves of bread and arranging them around the dishes. But here they are, you see. I mean, it's really, it shows that what we read in books about foods, it really reflects their lives. Al-Wasati also gave a nod to Arab hospitality. I mean, the maqamat just says that they were invited, they sat and ate. But here you have the people, preparation of food, which is really very useful for students of researchers in material culture at the time in the Middle East. Here are people enjoying those foods, and you have really, this is Arab hospitality, where the host is serving his own guests with his own hands. But of course, in those we also have a criticism of life at the time. This is also not mentioned in the maqamat, but it is shown in the Al-Wasati's illustrations. Here you have the haves and have-nots. Here you have two registers. The lower one, you have people having fun, singing, drinking, and playing music. And here you have the working class, the farmer who is, who works all day in order to, makes those foods and drinks available for those people. There's a kind of, social criticism here. And there's also this scene inside the tavern. This is really a rare image. I mean, what have we seen? Like a 13th century tavern, the inside, and what happens in this. Here is the trickster. I mean Abu Zayd, and here is Al Harith. He is also always the butt of his tricks, and he is rebuking him. I mean, here you have the kind of correlation between text and the image, where the text says that Abu Zayd is being rebuked by for drinking and spending his time in tavern. But this is not the whole thing. I mean, look at the image. It has, it shows life. Okay, we have other daily activities also shown in other manuscripts. We read in cookbooks, you slaughter the animal, you make the dough, you prepare the foods, you chop. Here are chopping and kneading. And this one is, we read about boards, and here's you have a board. What's interesting here is that in books of Hisba, the food market, inspection books, we read that the kneaders in bakeries, they need to wear like masks in order to prevent, to keep the dough clean. And here is the mask. So really what they say in books really happened in real life, more or less. They also take us to food markets. We read in cookbooks that, we read about Akl Souq, which is a food market. So they used to go to such markets in order to, buy bread, buy readily cooked food. Here you have a whole image of of a marketplace. Here is the bakery. Here is the kind of restaurant, sitting restaurant. Here is the kid with his father buying perhaps the sweets, etc. They are really lovely images that really comment on their daily lives and what we read in books, especially cookbooks. there is also this image which is about the overwhelmed father. Can you see the whole image? Or is okay? It is about an overwhelmed father. You see, he has the on his. I mean, he has so many kids, and his wife already breastfeeding another. So that was life. That was their lives. Too many kids. But it also reminded me of a recipe I found in the latest book a cookbook I translated from Al-Andalus, where the recipe says that, you know, teaches the, the readers how to make bracelets with sugar bracelets, edible bracelets. And he says these were called children's bracelets, معاصم الأولاد in Marrakesh. And at the end of the recipe, he said, after you make them, stow them away, and when needed, give them to the kids so that to keep them busy, يشغلوا به الأطفال. So, I mean, when we read those cookbooks, we understand that those recipes, they meant, a lot to them. I mean, they were meant to be cooked, to be used, and not only to be read or, okay. The same thing with us. I mean, we love all those recipes by celebrity chefs. At the time, they were also, they valued, recipes by chefs like the Al-Warraq's cookbook. He would say that this dish was cooked by Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi. This dish was called by famous chef Ibn Samina, and so on. So because, for example, we have a good example, Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi. He was, first of all, he was, famous because he was half a brother of Harun al-Rashid. He was a member of the ruling family. And he himself was, and he was called an epicure, a prince of epicures. And he also wrote a cookbook called Kitab al-Tabikh. The Kitab al-Tabikh didn't survive, but we have recipes in it in al-Baghdadi's, in Ibn Sayyar al-Warraq's cookbook. So al-Qazwini, he wanted to, really, show. It was one of his book, Ajaib al-Makhluqat. It deals, part of it deals with the miracles that happened and wonderful things that happened. So he preserves one of the stories that were told by Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi. He says that once his uncle Muhammad al-Amin was angry with him, and he asked his servant Kawthar to send him to imprison him in a dungeon. So al-Qazwini, he gives us a direct quote of what al-Qazwini, of what Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi exactly said. He said, I spent my night in the dungeon, and in the morning I saw an old man coming out of one of the corners. He offered me a sandwich and said, eat, so I ate. Then he produced a wine bottle and said, drink, and so I drank. Next he said, sing, and I sang the following. These are his lines. I am ordained for a span of time. Once that's over, I die. The fiercest lions I can conquer if my time is not yet well nigh. So when Kawthar heard him singing like this, he went to Al-Amin saying, your uncle has gone mad. He is singing in his dungeon, saying this and that. So Al-Amin ordered that I should be brought to him. Ibrahim al-Mahdi told him the story, and of course he was forgiven, and he was rewarded with a sum of money. This is another illustration by another copy from Al-Qazwini, also about Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi. This is Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi, and this is the old man who just miraculously came out of the corner of the dungeon and offered him food. This is the other one, when he said sing, and he started singing, and this is also, here you have the whole story written, and also the illustrated beautifully next to it. Okay, so I have been talking about visual commentaries. Now we come to the marginal and interlinear annotations that we find in the manuscripts themselves, and the way they communicate with the text. Okay. Now I come back to Al-Hariri's maqamat. Al-Hariri, he was an accomplished literary man, and the language he used in his maqamat was really, not really easy. I mean, but was kind of elitist. So he felt the need to provide some, explanations. So, for example, on this page, he put them right under the lines, the verses, all these, and here he put them next to this. So these are all commentaries in the margins provided by Al-Hariri himself. Of course, he was concerned because he wanted all people to enjoy his stories, and he didn't want his language to stand in the way. So he himself provided those commentaries. And when Al-Wasiti, of course, copied it out, made a copy, he made also the same thing. He added them in a way to differentiate between the text itself and the commentaries. Not only that, not only the footnotes, so to speak, but he also added endnotes. So at the end of his work, he added a kind of a glossary with some of the words he used, and he explains them. For example, قوله so and so, it means this and this. قوله وكنت أصرد, etc. It means so and so. All this, he was concerned that to make his work accessible to a broader audience. Now we come to al-Baghdadi's cookbook. This was written in the 13th century. It's not as long as al-Warraq's cookbook, and one of the manuscript we have, it comes, with all kinds of commentaries, marginalia, and they are all taken from Al-Minhaj, Minhaj al-Bayan by Ibn Jazla. All these, at the end, he would say something next to the dish, and he would say from Minhaj, these are all, of course, Ibn Jazla, he was a famous Baghdadi physician, and his book, Minhaj al-Bayan, he explains ingredients, and it also has recipes. So whenever there is a recipe that corresponds to a recipe that Ibn Jazla gives, he gives us those quotations from Ibn Jazla. He doesn't give the recipe, but he gives what Ibn Jazla said about its benefits as food. This is also, of course, this was. First of all, have a look at the title page. The title is Kitab al-Tabikh, and this edition is by the same person who added those من الأطعمة من قبل الطب. That is the the benefits, the benefits of those dishes. I mean, it's not that they are not only dishes, but they have some health benefits. And it was the function of those comments to point out the health benefits of those dishes and how best to consume them salubriously, you know, without being harmed by them. So this is, I mean, there are so many pages with such commentaries, all taken from Minhaj. Of course, I mean, this is important because we have to understand that I mean, they were really, they believed in Galen's theory of the four humors, and it affected the way they ate, the way they cooked their foods, and we see this in many books. But even the Ibn al-Karim al-Baghdadi, he didn't mention those health benefits, and the commentator here, he found it necessary to complete his text with those, quotations from Minhaj al-Bayan. In Kitab al-Tabikh, al-Baghdadi, in his introduction, he shows that he was interested in the pleasures of food and not in also the health benefits of food. So it was deficient to them, it was deficient in a way, and this is to make the text, to complete the usefulness of the text. Now we come to the question of censorship as a moral obligation. There is this, I came across this, and I thought, that this would be a good example for, for how all those, physicians, dietetics, herbalists, and so some of them felt that it is their responsibility, not to harm their readers with the information they give. For example, there is this, what happened between Ibn Sina and Ibn al-Baytar. Ibn al-Baytar quoted Ibn Sina في الأدوية القلبية on medicines or preparations that cure heart problems. So Ibn al-Baytar was not happy by the fact that Ibn Sina gave the exact amount of saffron which causes this amount which causes death if taken. The amount was about like 14 grams, and he said, وقد قرر لذلك وزن والأولى أن لا يذكر. He said, he talked about the danger of having such amounts of saffron, but he shouldn't have. So in a way, Ibn al-Baytar, he feels a responsibility towards the users of his book. There is also another instance from نهاية الرتبة في طلب الحسبة by Ibn Bassam. Ibn Bassam is a muhtasib. He is a market inspector, and in his book there are chapters on how swindlers, how con artists would adulterate foods and sell them as if they were charging for the same price they charge for the original thing, which is with its cheating. So he would, in his chapter, he would say he would do this, they would do that. For example, in order to adulterate saffron, they would boil some chicken, and they would, make it into threads, dry it and make it into threads, and mix it with saffron, and thus they would, adulterate it. And he said in this passage, he said, there are a lot of examples that I don't like to give, but he mentions Ibn Ishaq al-Kindi, and he said in his books, Kimya al-Tabayikh, the chemistry of food, or Kimya al-Atar, chemistry of aromatics, he said he mentions those preparations, and he said, he addresses the readers, he said, please, if it falls in your hands, please tear it to pieces, destroy it, don't keep it, because it is a danger. I think, to me, I mean, it was kind of overreaction, because if we, at Kindi from the 9th century, he was, he was he was a polymath. He was, I mean, he was interested in, he was proficient in chemistry and science and many things. And his experiments, of course, I mean, we do have, I have Kimya al-Tabayikh, and I have seen those recipes, and Kimya al-Atar, and I have seen those recipes, and they really tell you how to make, for example, musk without using musk. In that way, and in a way, he was teaching his readers to make imitations, to make to give substitutes for the real thing because they are cheaper. So his intention was not really to deceive his readers, but to give them something to use instead of the, instead of the, the real thing. And in fact, I mean, if you think of it, that was he was a pioneer in the process of creating synthetic, aromatics. I mean, the musk we use nowadays is synthetic. That's why it's affordable. So, these things are kind of like a sword, like a double-edged sword. They can be used, they can be negative, they can be positive, depending on how they are used and the intentions. So, I don't know, I mean, but I think Al-Kindi didn't mean to defraud his, the people, but Ibn Bassam was really so perhaps overprotective of of the people. Okay, now we come to the question of some crude expressions. We come some, even in cookbooks, there are some crude expressions used. And it was interesting for me to trace the way, the scribes. It's not the writer. Like these 3 pages are taken from 3 manuscripts of Ibn al-Warraq's 10th century cookbook, Kitab al-Tabikh. So different, different places, different, times, and different temperaments, depending upon who was copying the book. It deals with a recipe called tabahija. It tells the story of a Persian king who once went hunting, and he came back with a deer. He was tired, he slept, and his servants started cooking the deer because there was no time. I mean, he was very, he told them that he was hungry, he wanted to eat, but he went to sleep. Meanwhile, they cooked the dish, so they cooked it hurriedly. They just sliced the meat thinly, and they, fried it in melted fat of kidneys and the cold fat. So when the Persian king, when he woke up, he saw it. It was a new dish. He wasn't used to it. So he said something which the first this one abar kiba, and there's an explanation. Man afsada hada al-laham, who spoiled the meat? I didn't really pay attention to this. I mean, it was Persian. I didn't understand it. But when I came to this, this manuscript, I saw that there is you know, instead of this, there is a, you know, there's this space that he didn't want to mention the word, only its explanation, وتفسيره من أفسد هذا, who spoiled it. So I started to, you know, to investigate, you know, why is this? What's wrong with this? So it turned out to be a bad word. So, I mean, I understood why, I mean, this one refused to add it. When we come to the third manuscript, this guy just ignored everything and he gave this meaning and just moved on. So it depends upon who was writing, when he was writing it. Now we come to dialogues and negotiations as we find them in the manuscripts. In cooking, I mean, cooking with wine. We know, of course, that I mean, wine is not really, you know, it's not it's prohibited almost, but it was, you know, consumed, and people differ in this. But we have, I mean, in the latest book I translated, the Andalusi cookbook, we have several recipes that use wine, real wine. It's called لون خمري من دجاجة. There are two خمري dishes there. I mean, the wine is added not only to flavor, but it is the liquid itself in the dish. So use like rattle, you know, the whole, I mean, two whole cups of wine. So there were, I mean, interestingly, you have this comment written by somebody else. You know, it could be the reader who stands against, you know, consuming wine, and he said, replace wine with honey. It is halal. It is halal drink, and it is more delicious. So here we find a kind of negotiating with the text. I mean, trying to reconcile himself to it by substituting wine with something that is permissible. Also on drinking wine, Ibn al-Warraq is different. You know, he wrote his book in the 10th century in Baghdad, and we have chapters, you know, all chapters on making wines, not only non-alcoholic, but really also alcoholic wines that are really aged for 40 days or so. So in a raisin wine prepared, there is a recipe says, you know, it's prepared the Egyptian way, على طريقة أهل مصر. So this recipe is added here, and I find it strange that, you know, here is this is the when you read the recipe, I came across some words that I thought that are kind of gibberish. I didn't understand. I mean, blab, like here, a blab falouche. I mean, what is a blab falouche? And there is other words, befilsh shamar. What is filsh? I thought, what is this? What's happening here? So it dawned on me. This is he said this is على طريقة أهل مصر, the Egyptian way. And why not? I think I mean, Al-Warraq said, why not make it authentic and give it an Egyptian flavor in the language itself? Because bifilsh, they used to, you know, you know, the commoners, for example, they didn't say fels, which is a weight. He says filsh. And blab, for example, blab, it means bithalath, for three. That's, you know, so here dialect is being used here in a very clever way in order for the sake of authenticity, and also it is fun to read. There is another thing also. I mean, this is in the Gotha manuscript for كنز الفوائد في تنويع الموائد. I came across this word, وكذلك he was telling teaching the cooks how to boil vegetables. He says وكذلك الملوخية إذا غمتها في القدر. غمتها. What is غمتها? I mean, I first of all, I thought of looking it up in the dictionary. What is غمت? And then it dawned on me, غمتها. I mean, he's using here the غ instead of the r. So here you have really this recipe really takes you to the room where this cookbook was being written. It's it is between what happened between the scribe and his reader. The reader would read, and he was having this, he has this impediment in speech. We call it in Arabic لفظة. That is those who cannot pronounce the R, they pronounce the Gha. And he said غمتها. So for fun, I think it happens only once. So I think he just put it, for once, just to, just for fun. Okay. We also come now to prejudices, religious prejudice, for example. Here there is a recipe in كتاب وصف الأطعمة المعتادة, the book of familiar foods, where we have a dish called makabib لعنوا اليهود. So that is patties of the Jews, may they be cursed. So why do you put it here? So and then he ends it with, it's a really delicious recipe. And he said, it's absolutely delicious. So why do you say this then? It really tells you that when it comes to food and, good things, there are no real prejudices. You like them because, this is good stuff. So this is I saw this as an instance for when deliciousness transcends prejudices. Now, looking over the shoulders of an author composing his book, which is really rare, it happened between كنز الفوائد and زهر الحديقة. Both books are, there are recipes in Gotha library, and they are put next to each other. The numbers and of the manuscripts give the impression that they are, kind of related, but turned out they are not related. So you have the كنز الفوائد. This is the كنز الفوائد, and this is كتاب زهر الحديقة في الأطعمة الأنيقة. I read both, and when I came to this, I saw it as a plagiarized, condensed edition of كنز الفوائد. But look at this was anonymous. He said, لمؤلفه, that is for its writer, because he's not known, لمؤلفه. But look at this one. All the praise heaped on this الإمام العالم الفاضل الكامل المفيد الفريد العلامة شهاب الدين. And it turned out that he plagiarized this book. And of course, he protests that he doesn't like it. He likes brevity, so he condensed it into a small, almost like a pamphlet. And but it is, it is copied verbatim. About 80% of the recipes come from this. So I don't know if this is, and I think even in the medieval, criteria of meaning of a plagiarism, I think this was plagiarized. So this is really a rare chance of telling you how some books were written. If we do not have كنز الفوائد, if it didn't survive, we would really think that he wrote this book. But this is, we shouldn't be sure of, that unless he's, unless we are certain that as far as we know, that there are no other books similar to it. I think because he was, as he's being highly praised here, he was a very well-known scholar, and he wrote this book. He really, he added some comments. For example, saying that he wrote it for his slave girls, for the Jawari, so that they use it for cooking. He said there are things that he deleted from this from Kanz al-Fawaid because he doesn't like them, like fermented sauces. He says they are too much trouble and they are expensive. And so he seems, I mean, he's not rich enough to make these things. So I thought this was a very interesting case of putting two cookbooks together, I mean, next to each other, and see what was done to this, and the the how it is presented by the person who relied heavily on this one. Just an example, what he did with the with his book. For example, this is Ibn Mubarak Shah. This is the Zahr al-Hadiqa. He immediately begins with chapter 1 about regulations for cooks, whereas this one, it's a full-fledged cookbook. It starts with an introduction. He said, I mentioned this and that in my book, and he gives a whole list of the chapters included. This one doesn't have any of this, So that's the, and I think this is really interesting. I mean, as far as, borrowing things from other books. I mean, other writers like Al-Warraq, his whole book depends on others' recipes, but he gives he gives the names of the of the people responsible for writing them, and he uses hundreds of resources. I'm sure Kanz al-Fawaid, he also used other books, but he didn't really rely on just one. So this is really a unique instance, and that gives us an example on how books and how cookbooks were put together. Okay, so this is I think this is as far, this is what I found in my journey through the manuscripts. I hope you enjoyed it.